Okay, I'm back, everybody. Thank you for the folks that have taken the time to go through this with me. And in my last lecture, I don't know how to call this ongoing talking bit that I do. But I think what's going on with me is I'm a natural born storyteller, and I just cannot help but to tell stories. But this is a true story as far as I perceive it. It's my experience, put it that way. So my last one, I said I wasn't sure if I'd be back. I don't know if I had much more to say or not. But I took my time and mulled some things over and realized when I say that Accihte music project, there really isn't much evidence of an actual music project per se available necessarily. Although I've got stuff on YouTube, I've got stuff on Spotify, I've got stuff scattered all over the internet, and I am very bad at staying disorganized with all of my stuff. And I hope to change that and get things organized a little bit better. Because I love to keep things organized. It's just when it's media on a computer, everything's everywhere. So the Accihte Music Project has a purpose in terms of music. And more so than just music, the purpose is sort of geared towards sound making. So the premise of all of this was to communicate. And at the best of times, I find communication for me implies that I bring forth concepts, discuss ideas at length, unearth issues, confront things, and going along with the neurodivergence, I enjoy, I guess I'll put it that way. The more I go through life, now that I know I am neurodivergent, the more I realize how overwhelming I am and how it's very hard for me to break things down to be something that everyone else can relate to. And everyone is angry at me about that, I realized. Which I pick up on because I can sort of get a general sense of people's thoughts, which makes me put up my defenses, and I don't get too far, but lately, in the last year especially, I've been learning to just lean into my solitude and just trust this process, because honestly, I'm fine, I'm doing fine, and I enjoy having enough peace and quiet to bring forth these concepts to the people that understand their value. And I think you all know who you are at this point. And so, what the premise was to communicate with the spirit realm. And I don't mean, I'm getting pushed back from the European folks. They're making fun of me that I'm conjuring the dead, and it's like these demonic children who staggering around like zombies. And I mean, just this really, vile take on what I'm trying to say. And what it signifies is they don't understand on our side of the world how indigenous people, natives, view their connection with their ancestors from the past and the future. And that's the purpose of the drumming, is to keep those connections alive from one realm to the next. And you cannot interrupt that cycle once the flow starts to, get going. It gets going, and it's just a way of life to communicate with the spirit realm. And to view that as something that's, negative or scary, yeah, I get that, especially in the media that we consume on a daily basis. Some of this stuff, especially if you veer off into the topics of Satanism and all that, is so vile and so violent and so macabre and gross. I can see why people would not really love this idea. Some people don't believe there is such a thing as spirit. And this is all, whatever you believe, great, but I still feel compelled to share my experience with people who share my point of view. So, communicating with the spirit realm and with these children that I'm talking about. I've tried my best to figure out how to explain what I'm going through to the people around me. Well, excuse me, I'm stuttering. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm always a little bit nervous. I tried to explain to my loved ones and the people around me what I was going through, and I couldn't seem to find just the right way to convey it. But I decided, well, let me dive into using Logic Pro, like Mr. Gangio does, because this is where all of this began. If you listen to the last two, these concepts started to started with his music, so I started to think, well, what's he do? How does he make music? How does he make sound? And so I decided to try to figure that out on my own. Obviously, very much a beginner, just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks and what doesn't. And before I knew it, I was having an awful lot of fun. So I made the first 5 albums, quote unquote, which are just sketches I've thrown together on Logic Pro, just the download, because I didn't have money to invest in the full cost of it. I didn't know if I'd even use it to warrant the price. And I'm a Mac girl, so I didn't want to use the Microsoft free stuff. I just wanted to do this way, because I really enjoy working on Macs as opposed to any other style of computer. I think there's only 2. I prefer Macs. Anyway, I digress. But okay, so I decided, well, I'm trying my best to convey all this information. I'm trying my best to get people to see I'm going through something here, and instead of just writing me off as whatever it is that's going through my ex-husband's head, whatever it is that's going through my kids' heads, whatever it is that's going through the rest of my family's minds regarding me, what can I do to prove to all of these folks, and not to mention the Swiss counterparts, what I'm going through, so that they'll take me seriously and stop assuming that I'm just flaking out here and I don't really have anything to say. I'm just I don't even know what you would classify their opinion of what I was going through from their perspective. I don't understand why people couldn't see that I was genuinely going through something. Like, not that I want pity, it's just that I would rather people maybe listen to have something to say, because outside of my core family and some of my former core friends, I had people in the media industry, journalism especially, who were very interested in what I had to say, and I had a readership and a following, So it was this weird disconnect. It's like, well, these folks want to know what I have to say to the tune of thousands. Why do my family not care what I have to say? Like, what's the disconnect? I don't know, and I still don't know, but I figured the best way to get people to at least maybe hook into something that's going on here, to see some value in it, because I didn't understand what was going on with me. I was hoping someone who knew what was going on in the realms of music to explain to me what was going on, because let's refer to the Dancing Nun thing that Mr. Gagnon published, and what he was trying to convey there. He's obviously implying something very bizarre happened that was not common. But I have no idea exactly what he heard that's uncommon, per se. I have an inclination. So this is why I always insisted, we should just really get together and break this down, because I don't understand. I don't know anything about music. And so when I started all of this, I knew absolutely nothing about Logic Pro, and I knew nothing about how to build a song, and I knew nothing about any of it. But what was compelling me was this urge to communicate with all these children in the spirit realm that seemed to be looking to me for help. It was a desperate attempt to communicate with them that turned out to be an enjoyable, creative process. And a lot of fun. So the first album I made was called Accihte Go Home. And one of the first songs on that album was called Home from Sutton Bridge. So my concept there, which I don't have it prepared to show you, but I have 2 others prepared that I will talk about. But for that particular composition, for example, I thought about when I was a child, I had to do a lot of walking back and forth to the local water hole. I loved it in the summertime. You'd be so tired, and there'd be bug bites, and the blood would be all crusted behind your ear, and your hair would smell like fresh air, and you'd be starving because you swam all day. And so by the time you get home, had something to eat, settled in for the night, it was like the best feeling in the world. It was just like, don't give me anything else. I have reached heaven with this feeling, being outside in fresh air and sunlight all day, and swimming, and fresh water. I love all of that. Grew up outside, spent most of my time outside, and it was home to me. And I felt so free and so brave that I could walk from my house way up on a hill, way up in a field, all the way down to the watering hole called Sutton Bridge. And my sister and her boyfriend and her friends and my cousins, and we all used to go and have a really good time. So I thought about that, and I thought about, okay, if I could put that experience to music, what would it sound like? So I came up with the song Home from Sutton Bridge. And I'm using a lot of basic tools here, quote unquote, so as to speak, to bring it together. just by diving into Logic Pro, and this is my process. I go through the library of sounds, pick one, fool around with it on the keyboard thing that they show, record it, do it again with something else, do it again with something else until I've created something that I feel is audibly appealing. That's how I built all the songs that I've made for this project. It's extremely simple. I don't go into any details. I don't know anything about music. I don't know anything about timing. I don't know anything about tempo. I don't know anything about jargon. I don't know anything about music other than I like to dance, but I started this and it started to go quite smoothly. And then one song led to another and another and another. And it's a creative process. It's not a whole lot different than painting or drawing, which I've done most of my life. So I could apply those concepts to creating a song, only instead of using colors, I'm using sound. And it became kind of a natural flow very quickly. And so I started having a lot of fun with it. And so 5 or 6, I think it's 6 altogether, but initially it was 5, and then I did another one, and then another one. I think there's 7 altogether. I've made so much, and it's not that I don't take it seriously, it's just that I'm not doing this to hope to become famous. I know that the music industry is you can't make music unless you also have the agenda of becoming a well-known, successful artist touring around the world all the time. Well, that's great for words out, but that's never my intention here. My intention here is just to try to figure out a method of communication with spirit realm. Maybe that sounds weird, and maybe it doesn't, but I would like to make note of the fact that the people that are finding this hard to believe, I encourage you folks to dive into the paranormal. The American TV personality, to put it whatever way, Zach Bagans, he has a museum dedicated to the paranormal. He's been investigating the paranormal for a very long time. He can tell you a few things about what exists out there and what doesn't. And him and his team have proved time and time again that there's more than meets the eye in this world. So I have all this. I studied that for years. That might be one reason why my kids don't want to be around me. I studied it a lot. Maybe it scared them, and maybe it was a little too much for them, and I should have known, but I missed cues. And I don't know, but some of it's pretty intense, and my entry into that topic was through the work of Ryan Buell of the ghost hunting team in Pennsylvania. I've been to Pennsylvania a few times. It was a very, very creepy vibe state. There's something going on there, and I believe that's where a lot of the worst battles of the Civil War occurred. So, you can feel something different in the air when you go there, which I love. In a way, it just fuels my imagination like crazy. But anyway, Ryan Buell is another one who's also tackled the issue of the paranormal and come up with quite a lot of conclusions about what's real and what isn't, what exists, what doesn't. So, to me, it's just it's just part of the canon of understanding of what it means to be a human being on this earth. So it's just part of my understanding of how the world works. So the spirit realm is not something that I'm not. It's something it's not even that I believe. I just know it's there. They've proven it again and again and again that something's going on like that. So, and that's not what the communication that Jeremy Dutcher does when he sings with the spirit realm and plays the drum and all the things that he does. Notwithstanding, that's a whole other leveled up. That's you got your demonic stuff way down, energy-wise speaking, vibrationally speaking, and then the higher up, the louder you go, the more you reach the spirit realm that is, more in tune with what my concept of heaven would be. A perfect form kind of mentality, or just at ease in your own being. Anyway, I'm veering off into a different avenue thought, but I would say check out his work, Zach Bagans, and just think about I'm not just talking off the cuff here. There's people that make this type of information and research their living and their livelihood, and it's what they do, and I know this. So, going back to wanting to communicate with these children, I just wanted to get creative. Well, how could I do that? How could I kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone? How could I get my kids to see I'm not flicking out on them? How could I get my ex-husband to see I'm actually going through something, not trying to be a drama queen? And how am I going to get these folks in Europe to understand that I need their help to understand what's happening, and I need them to something's going on. Well, all those calculations didn't really get me where I wanted to go, and it all backfired because my family didn't seem to care less. They thought it was, I don't know what they thought, but there was nothing within it they saw value in, no matter what it turned out to be. And further than that, the folks over in Europe accused me of bringing it all together so quickly because of AI. They thought I used AI. And that was around 2021. And I do live in a little bubble, and back then, especially, I didn't really even know what AI was or what it could and couldn't do. I've still never used AI to build any sort of Audible file. I've used it to create images, and I post them on Facebook. If I make anything with AI at all, that's all I've done so far. I do work in the industry, the AI industry recently, but this has nothing to do with my music project. But through the course of events, I found out, this type of thing is something that comes extremely naturally to me, and I'm not sure why. But the Accihte music project is all me. I've never used AI for that. I swear it all on my own life I've never used AI, and I was baffled that someone would accuse me of that. And then I got thinking, if that's what they think I would do, and then throw it out into the world and let on it was all me, these folks have their view of me so skewed and so contorted to who I actually really am as a person. I didn't know what to do with all that, and it made me angry, and it's just never gotten any better. I have never been around people that underestimated me so openly and put me in a mentality where I seem like I'm just a really bad person. So forgive me, but I took that around with it for quite a while, and everyone's stooped quite low, and I have all that information in the back of my mind that I don't know what to do with, but I don't want the project to be about that. But I will say, it's like I'm climbing a very steep slope here with this, but I know I've reached the top and heading back down the other side because I know all this information is getting to the right people. So without further ado, I just want to play a little clip of one of the songs off of Accihte, Go Home. And the go home concept means to these children, go home. It's okay to go home. I think I made these prior to discovering Jeremy Detcher's music, or I didn't discover his music till somewhere halfway within this project, somewhere at the midway point. So I didn't realize he was out there doing what I'm trying to figure out how to do. So that's why some of these songs have language of the Passamaquoddy or Willistic White people enmeshed within it, and that's a whole other thing because I've noticed a lot of correlations in the root words within the Willistic White language that appear in modern day language, and the meaning is still very much intact, and phonetics, and sometimes even the spelling. Two examples of that are the word come and the word makanike. Accihte come is one of the terms I put in one of my songs, and it means she dances barefoot, I believe. But the word come is, we use that word all the time. Come here, come over. C-O-M-E. And then you can take it to the sexual side too, and that has its whole other meaning. And so it all ties in, and again, but the original root meaning of that stems in this 12,000-year-old language, and it means to dance. So that's one thing. And then the term makanike means he will collect, and that's spelled M-A-Q-E-N-I-K-E. And at the very tail end of that word is N-I-K-E, which is Nike, or Nike, however you want to pronounce it, who is a goddess of war, I believe. But the culture of the Greeks is much younger than the culture of the Willistic White people. Much younger, by thousands of years. So that's food for thought. So I made this song that I'm going to play. It's called River Meets the Sea. Because in this project, I'm also trying to convey the fact that I see things in the future. I think that's what's happening. I'm not sure if that's what's happening. So I'm going to record all of this and put it down exactly how I feel it's being conveyed to me. However it's being conveyed, I don't know exactly how all that works. I just know that I'm picking up on things, and I'm going to call this song River Meets the Sea. And I'm going to play it for you now, just a little clip of it. so you hear like the moaning in the background, that's to convey the spirit realm, and the drumming is what I was hearing, like constant drumming, all the time, drumming. So it's sort of like there was this army marching through with the drums, and it was just getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and then all this information just exploded in my mind. And so I wanted to convey that in song. It's just a very basic use of whatever basic instruments are available on Logic Pro's uploaded, preloaded, whatever you call it, sound library. So, and that was really fun to realize, like, I can make all of this with all of these sound bites. It's so cool. It's so cool. Speaking of AI, I mean, Logic Pro obviously borrows from an AI system of some kind to be able to do that. So I don't know why everyone's all up in arms about AI, but again, I say I did not use artificial intelligence. Like, I didn't use any program to go in and punch in some details and get them to spit out a song or lyrics or information. This is all me. This is all me. And I am highly insulted someone would think I would be as deceiving as all of that, is to claim it's my own. But I actually used AI. Like, that is such an insult. Another insult on top of many, many insults I've had to endure to pull this project off by people that I don't understand why what I'm doing bothers them quite so much, but it seems to. And that's an ongoing problem I've had, but either way, I keep going. So that's one, excuse me, one of the compositions, and so I called that River Meets the Sea. That has a double meaning, because I played Jeremy Dutcher's music down where the river, the Wolastoqey River, meets the Bay of Fundy. That's traditional 12,000-year-old Wolastoqey stomping grounds. That's their original land. That's when they say land back, that's one of the land masses that belong to our indigenous people. So, that's one thing. The river literally meets the sea, and that is also an homage to Nina Simone's song, Sinnerman. And beyond that, unfortunately, it's also a term used in reference to the Palestinians in Gaza in particular, where we all know there was a huge uprising or whatever you call it. No, there was Israel bombed the crap out of them. And you know, to put it one way, I don't mean to be irreverent, and I don't know exactly how to say that in a way that makes it palatable. Gaza was attacked, and it wasn't very good, and I saw premonitions of this stuff, of war and bombing, and I had no idea in my mind that all this would be going on in 2025 or 2026. But again, I'm trying my best to convey what I'm going through, so this is my way of telling people, this is what I see. I'm going to sit back and put it down and see what happens and see what is wrong with me, where am I going, what is happening. And the more I just sort of sit back and watch things unfold, the more I can see, like, yeah, I had a bona fide vision, download of information, which is something that Serge Tankian talks about happens to him when he writes songs. And as well, Maynard James Keenan talks about being a walking, talking vortex, and I mean, listen to his music for 5 seconds and you know that's got to be true. So that concept came to me. It's like, well, it feels like I just received this massive download of information. So I just started putting it out there. And it came across as though I'm using AI, but I never did. But the intention was to communicate. So that's River Meets the Sea, and that's got the drumming in it. And that's me trying to make noise that would connect with these children in the spirit realm that don't trust anyone that speaks English, and they need to hear something that sounds like home to them. So I started trying to fool around with all these sounds and things and come up with something that would help achieve that goal. So that's where that song comes from. And so then there's another album called River Styx, and that's highlighting the fact that there's something going on between the spirit realm, and something seems to be going back and forth, varying these children from one point to the next, back and forth. And it was something that, once that concept appealed to me, or something I tuned into, I realized like this is all about discipline. This is all about slow and steady. Keep the pace going for as long as it takes before this feeling lifts from me, and I feel like something shifts within me. So, and I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to make that something that people understand without taking it and turning it into some garbage where I'm talking about demonic children that you see in Hollywood films, which is just, that's so lame. That's not it at all. Folks that think that that's the direction I'm going in really need to just step back and do a little research on other cultures than the United States Hollywood version of the spirit realm, because thankfully it's nothing like that at all, thankfully. So, now the next album I made, let's say I said River 6, and in that album I had a bunch of songs where the concept was use sounds of nature to see if that could kind of get them to trust me more. And I know this is a bit of an abstract kind of mentality, but I mean, I had nothing else this seemed to be the only thing available for me to do. Like, this seemed to be just something I needed to do, had the opportunity to do. Like, all these are things I needed to create. This fell into my lap easily, and so what wouldn't I try, right? So here's the next one. It's called Five Minkies, as in minke whales. And the reason I use those is because one of the first whales I ever saw in my life was a minke whale, and it swims in the Bay of Fundy. I thought maybe that sound will appeal to something, but it was just an idea. So here we go. Okay, so now that is the sound of minke whales, and the sound of minke whales, and the sound of waves. And so the way I put all this together is I would go on YouTube, find files that had sound bites that appealed to what I was looking for in terms of sounds, and I would convert them and use them. I can't remember exactly all the specific terms for these types of downloads and uploads, MP3s, MP4, blah, 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 all that stuff. I don't know. But I know when I see it, I just can't remember the name of it. And you just do all that, and so back and forth, I do a sound, take a sound off YouTube, use it, put the clip on my YouTube, play it, download it again, put the sound bite on my Logic Pro program. And that's just how I did it. I don't know if anyone else would do it that way, but that's how it worked for me. That's what I figured out that would work. So I've got sounds of all kinds of different animals in this particular album called River Styx. I've got loons, I've got frogs, I've got minke whales, seagulls, and all of that was just to try to figure out how could I fill my own environment with sounds that these children in the spirit realm might relate to get them to kind of just move in a little closer until we figure out what you need. Like, what is it can I do to help you? Because this feeling was so oppressive. There was nothing else that I could do. I didn't know what else to do. I knew something had to give, or else I don't think, I had days where I didn't think I was going to survive this, like, in terms of my physical stamina, and sometimes I still get quite tired when I consider the amount of effort and work this took to pull off. It overwhelms me, and I have to kind of lay down and just think things through, and I've always been that way. I always, go fast, hard, long, and then crash. Sleep for a long time, get up, do it all again. Do it again. So that's some of the music that is a brief overview of two of the compositions I've made, and there are quite a lot. And the purpose behind all of them was to communicate with the spirit realm, and then once that was achieved, then I decided to, when I encountered Jeremy Ductor's music and went through that process, which I discussed in the last two episodes. Then I decided, well, I'm going to start making this about things I saw in that vision that I had of all this darkness, all this war, all this violence, and I put all this information in the text that I sent on to the folks in Switzerland, but the wrong people did the wrong things with those texts, in my humble opinion, and it created just even further conflict between us. But in my own work, I decided, well, I'm going to try to handle this my own way, and so I made songs like Accihte, and Cole, as in C-O-L-E. Cole is my grandfather's name, that's what they called him. And so the purpose of all those compositions on Accihte Cole, for example, was to convey the fact that my World War II war veteran grandfather, who was a shit-kicking guy and had a wild bad temper, but my mom says good things about him, so I assume he's a good guy on some levels. I didn't meet him, but he came through to me in the spirit realm, and he kicked my ass hard, and just wouldn't. I told my mother numerous times, it felt like he reached through the spirit realm and literally grabbed me. I'm not saying gently guided me through like an angel does from taking me off to heaven. No. It's like he came raging out of hell itself, wherever he was, still reeling from the effects of World War II, still all that energy still surrounding him in the spirit realm, and he blasted through all of that somehow. And it's like, it felt like he was grabbing me by the back of the neck, just gripping me as hard as he possibly could, and he would not let go until I pulled myself away from that mess that I was in with my ex-husband. Whatever we were doing, however we were living, I was slipping away, and I was drifting, and I was almost just completely lost inside myself. I don't think people realize how bad off I was, and I didn't realize until this all started. And I filmed that process, and you could see it come through in my eyes, and it went on for days, and every time I went near my ex-husband, it was like my grandfather was pushing down on my back, and imagine how that would feel in the real world, like he was pushing me down. Every time I went near my ex-husband, and when I got away from my ex-husband, it wasn't so bad. And the farther I removed myself from him, the less I felt that, and the less I felt that. And it took a long time to relieve that pressure. So I conveyed all of that in the album Accihte Cole, because he's the one who seemed to be conveying to me all this information about play this song, play this song, play. And he was known to be a very smart man. He could not read or write, but he created his own code in the military. When he was in the army, he was in charge of the uniforms and all that, and he would found out a way to keep track of all that information in his own handwriting that he created, his own writing system that he created. And my indigenous roots stem from him. And you want to talk about power? And I was almost honored that that man would put himself through whatever he was putting himself through in the spirit realm to reach out to me. But it's funny because all my life, any time I could, I made sure I was as good as I could possibly be to his only son, my Uncle Carl. And I think he came back to pay back that goodness that I tried to convey to my uncle, because he was a really rough guy and gone through some really rough things. But I made space for him in my life and made way for him to find happiness in whatever way he could. And he bunked out in the backwoods of Stormgrove, my little cottage in the woods, for quite a long time. And the report that I got back was that those were the happiest days of his life. And that's saying quite a lot, because he went through quite a lot of bad stuff. And this is all in conjunction with me trying to unearth this curse. Why are my family members suffering so bad? Like, what is going on? Like, it was uncommonly bad tragedies, year in and year out. And I saw the effects of that on my uncle. So I always liked him. I related to him more than any other family member I had. I turned out to be more like him than anyone, I think, or whatever that might mean. But I loved him dearly, and so I was good to him. And it felt like my grandfather came back and told, it helped me as a way of saying thank you for helping his son when he wasn't there to help him himself, And it felt like my grandfather had a lot of regrets that he had carried with him to the grave. And when he came through to me, it was like he was trying to absolve himself from a lot of the bad stuff he did, trying to figure out a way to keep me from whatever realm he was in, and he was not necessarily in a good realm. But I think this process helped him move forward in the spirit realm to somewhere better, and I know it's helped me move somewhere better in the real world. And I think he'd be quite proud to see how well I'm doing now, and so that's why it's hard for my family and I to be at odds. It's like you have no idea how much our ancestors love us. You don't get it. You really don't get it. And then, not to mention my grandmother, I had a dream and a spiritual experience with her too. Maybe I'll talk about that some other day, but the power. It was like this great big man was standing behind me, grabbing me by the back of the neck and forcing me to get myself to a better place. Like a grandfather would if he showed up and you were at some skanky party somewhere drinking and doing a bunch of stupid stuff you shouldn't be doing. He kicked my ass good and proper for an extended period of time, and it was not pleasant, but it got the job done. I can't explain it, but it taught me a lot about myself and about, about a lot of things. I'll just leave it there. I'm going to pause this for a second. You won't know that I am, but I feel I should mention that, and see if I can find the song from one of those albums, and that'll kick off the story in a new direction. So just one moment. Okay, so I found the file I'm looking for. I'm going to play a clip of this, and now this file is it's my way of making record of the visions that I saw, and I saw bombs. I mean, it was bad. It was so real to me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear it, I could see it. It didn't last, forever, but it lasted long enough that it's just like, why do I have this information? I'm like, why am I hearing this? What's going on? What? So the only thing I knew to do to convey this was to create a noise composition, so to speak. So this one I'm going to play now. Again, no AI was used at all. This is all me using sound bites from YouTube, using Logic Pro, and piecing it all together the best way I know how. And if it's really good to the point where someone thinks that's AI, well, pat on the back for me. But I'm not sure what to say about that, because I definitely did not use AI, and I'm not here to brag. I'm just here to tell the story. And I'm trying to figure out how to tell the story in the best way I know how. But what this signifies the fact that, Indigenous people are not, wildly creative and wildly capable and wildly intelligent and wildly strong and wildly smart and wildly talented. Did I say talented? So when I think about all these children that were wiped off the face of the earth in this group of people. Think about what has been lost. If you take one Jeremy Dutcher and multiply him by 20, and think about what that might mean in the spirit realm, and how much power would be behind that many strong Indigenous voices. Think about myself and all this information I've been compiled. Think of 20 me emerging on the scene. It would steer the whole world in a brand new direction, but the more that people like this have been killed off, the more the ones in control of the killing can control the world itself, and it's the same old song and dance. But at any rate, this is Accihte Cole. So that's Accihte Cole. And that little narrative you hear in the background is me. I would have an experience in the spirit realm, it's just like some new blast every day and on for days, and I would go to bed, think about it, get up the very next morning, and talk about what I was going through. And so the recording that you're hearing is a very raw recollection of me trying to convey what I'm experiencing in my spirit. And it's bleeding out into the rest of the world, pardon the expression, but there was no way I could contain this, and so I would just show up, and I would talk, and I would talk, and I would talk, until I couldn't talk anymore, because that's the only thing that I could think, that's the only thing that helped me get through this experience. It was like being plugged into a 1,000-watt light bulb for days, and my system was just raging. Every cell in my body was on fire. And when I closed my eyes, I've said it before, I'll say it again, all I could see was a sea of, not a sea, Sea of Children. But when that was all dealt with, I saw just bright red, like that say the kind you see when you're in a rage. And it was like my grandfather knew about my privacy being compromised and could see what those guys were doing over there in Europe. And he was pissed. I mean, pissed. He was angry that that happened to me. And he just showed up on the scene and started kicking ass in the spirit realm, as far as I can tell. And, I wrote about his ability to do said things in the regular world. He was a rough guy, and he was someone you just didn't mess with. And I respect that, because he learned that in the war. And so this composition is about, if I'm neurodivergent and have all this going on with me, I've got it from somewhere. I know I didn't get it from my grandmother, God bless her, I know I didn't. She was not. She was more of a linear thinking kind of gal. I know I didn't get it necessarily from my dad. He was a mechanic, and he could play the guitar or some, but he was not this kind of, and his intelligence wasn't like this. It was different. He could do anything, build anything, very smart working with his hands. And then my mother, an artist, a brilliant artist, just absolutely amazing artist, and then creativity never stops. And so I know most of this stems from my mother's heritage, and my mother must obviously get it from my father or grandfather, because she doesn't get it from her mother, we'll put it that way. So it helps me kind of think like, well, if I've got all this going on, imagine, especially before I came to terms with all of this, if I got shipped off to a war and my hearing was totally destroyed because all I could hear were bombs going off day in, day out. I mean, my grandfather came home from the war with severe post-traumatic stress disorder, severe, and back then they didn't have treatment for it or even a diagnosis. He had to suffer through that. He could not tolerate noise. Unfortunately, one time a dog barked a little too loud, and the dog didn't make it. This is almost 2 hours long. This is for my hardcore fans. Anyway, like I say, I like to tell stories, and then also my grandfather destroyed the piano because of the noise. So he couldn't enjoy pets, he couldn't enjoy music after the war, and what else could he enjoy? Not to mention the health ramifications of being a soldier. So in honor of his sacrifice and the things that he could have been in this world but was not able to become due to being a war veteran and dealing with war, I created Accihte, which is a whole other album, and I don't know if I've got it uploaded anywhere, but it's just part of the story, and that's in honor of him and what he went through and what war does to people. And so the merit of that, I thought, would be if you play that out loud in as many venues as you can get it out there, maybe it will encourage people to just start taking a genuine stance against war, prohibit war, because war bleeds out into the next generation and the next and the next, and everybody suffers the trauma and the generational trauma of these types of events. And the trauma that he went through is imprinted on the DNA of everyone in his family, whether they know it or not. So that's one other vein of thought in this project. I cannot believe I've been talking this long. I feel obligated to end it here. I sincerely appreciate it if you stayed to the very end. That's no small thing. It means the world to me. And much love to you. And I'll be back. I think I have quite a lot more to say, but I don't know when. All right, much love. Take care of each other. Peace.